to the Philippine Eagle Center. My name is Luana, and this year's
I'm Dominic.
And we are animal keepers here at the Philippine Eagle Foundation. And today we have a live stream of our Philippine eaglet, Agsamon. And so we have this here because it is Philippine Eagle Week. So happy Philippine Eagle Week to everyone. The Philippine eagle is actually considered the Philippines' national bird. And so we're going to kind of go through and explain what we're seeing live streaming here. And so right now we just see the Philippine eaglet just getting up from its little nest. And right now the eaglet is in what we have here called our isolation chick rearing room. So this bird, since it was rescued from the wild, we do not want it to have any human contact. We don't want it to become imprinted. And so it is set in this isolated place. As you can see in front of the eaglet, there is this sort of blind or curtain, if you will. And this is how keepers are able to go in and out to do the cleaning and the feeding of the eaglet. And so the keepers would actually come in, and the bird wouldn't need to recognize us, and we use a puppet head to feed the bird. And Dominic will explain a little bit about that.
Okay, so we have here this eagle feeding pocket, we call it. So during feeding time, so this is what we use to feed the birds. So it's like really looking like your parents, because these birds need to be like wild imprint, because it is so very important for them to really recognize its own kind for the purpose of their long-term survival. So that later in life they know what to do and they know what to select for their mate, when they come into breeding.
Yeah. So what we're seeing is basically the bird is preening itself. So you can see the eaglet using its beak to kind of rearrange its feathers on its body, and this is a form of a cleaning behavior that most raptors display. And also, if you notice in the background, as Dominic mentioned, about wanting to keep the eagle as wild as possible and to avoid it becoming a human imprint, you can see in the corner that there's actually an adult Philippine eagle situated there. So it's in the adjacent enclosure, and the eaglet can actually view this adult Philippine eagle as a form of a mentor or teacher, if you will, so as that the bird can recognize its mate later in life. So yeah, can you explain that?
Yeah, that's true. So it's like a teacher now, because this growing eaglet still needs to be, taught by the adult eagle bird. And so, like during the feeding, because this bird eventually will eat by its own. So, and in order for the bird to really know what kind or what type and how to really get their food, so it has to be learned from the adult bird.
Yeah. So if you're wondering why we keep these birds in isolation, is again really to avoid that human contact, even the disturbances that we have here around our facility. We don't want them to recognize human voices or cars or those types of sounds. So that is one of the main reasons why the bird continues to remain in this isolated area. And then the next stage from which this bird is going to go to is into another enclosure. So they go through multiple stages, and that is dependent upon their age. So.
Yeah, and also at this stage, this bird needs to be in a very low temperature. So that's why we put this bird in a very enclosed facility like a room, because this bird requires air-conditioned room. Otherwise, the bird, get punted, and then because it's so hot here, And so the temperature required is really very low, like 20 to 24 degrees centigrade or Celsius.
Yeah, so in their natural environment, Philippine eagles are found in like more mountain forests. So they're in higher elevations as they would naturally be. Here at the Philippine Eagle Center, we're at a little bit slightly lower elevation, so the climate is slightly different. Now, for a Philippine eaglet, they have very thick down feathers, and so that's why, as Dominic explained, they need an air-conditioned room. And so once they do molt into their adult plumage, um, they're able to like adjust to the temperature around them. So they're no longer in an enclosed space. However, yeah, when they do reach into that phase when they have their adult plumage, the bird is still preening here. You can see right here on the chest, it's still preening, organizing his feathers. And so the bird will continue to molt until those adult feathers come in. And when they do, like I mentioned, they transfer into another cage, and then Dominic can explain that.
Okay, yeah. So at 5 months old, they start to jump or hop into branch. No? So that's why we call it branching time. So 5 months. So they start, jumping, flying from one perch to another, or go into the nest edges for exercises. So until they know how to fly and go to another trees or farther.
Yeah, so when they're still quite young, they also do those like wing exercises. You can see them like hopping up and down on their perch, and that helps them strengthen their wing muscles and their breast muscles as well. At this moment, what we're seeing is this chick is still not at that stage. It's still within its nest. It's still very much reliant on its parents if it were back in the wild. And so, again, that's why the keepers have to become the surrogate parents, as you will, for this eaglet for now, until it does reach that age for which it can eat on its own and learn how to hunt on its own, so that the eagle can survive on its own and then therefore be fit for release. So that's the trajectory for this eaglet. It will be released. And again, that's why we're taking all those precautions to avoid human contact. Philippine eagles are very keen, very smart in knowing where their food source comes from. And so if the eagles see you with your pail of food, they'll start to associate that as something, as the main food source. So again, we try to eliminate that for our eagles that are to be released back into the wild. The eaglet at the moment is not doing much, but this is basically natural behavior when they're in their nest.
You can see also that just in case the other bird is also preening. So the eaglet can really observe what the other birds are doing there in the next enclosure. If you can see it right now.
It's in the corner of your screen. Oh, and here the eaglet is stretching. If you saw that little stretch of its wings, and it stood up. And it's actually looking at the adult Philippine eagle across from her.
So he observed the next bird. Okay.
So yeah, the bird just really stretched out its wings. It did not hop out of the nest, of course. It knows to stay within it. That's where they feel safe when they're still quite young. They will stay within their nest and wait till the parents return with food. The eaglet is just wondering, where is our food right now? So when you saw the wings stretch out, so when they're adults, that wingspan reaches 2 meters. So it is one of the largest wingspans of a raptor in the world. So that's amazing that, again, Philippine eagles are found here in our country. And And so you can't tell exactly in the video per se, but when they are juveniles, they have these little fluffy like down feathers, but their feather tips are like have little fluffs on them, and so they look very cute. But again, those fluffy down feathers helps keep them warm in the wild, and so when they mature, they lose those down feathers, and then it's replaced with more sleek, more aerodynamic feathers that's suited for flight and gliding. And so also Philippine eagles, if you're familiar with, are actually brown and white. When they're young, they are slightly lighter in color. Yeah.
Juveniles.
So juveniles, they're actually, when they hatch and they kind of grow up a little bit, they're all like white. And then their brown starts to come in when they're a couple of months old on their wings. But when they're young, they're like white with little patches of black on the tops of their wings and on their head. And then the brown starts to darken.
Wow, look at that.
You want to explain? Okay, so basically what we just saw is a wing exercise where the birds, what I explained just previously, where it would flap its wings, and they do this within their nest until they reach a couple months of age, and then they'll start branching out from their nest. And so those are good behaviors that we want to look for as like observers for the eagle, as if they're hitting all those like milestones and like eagle behaviors, making sure that bird is healthy and fit. And so we also saw it there just preening its tail. They kind of lift their tail feathers up, and that's just a form of grooming if it were in like mammalian terms. So what you just saw is that the bird just defecated, it just pooped, basically. And so you saw that his tail feathers went up. And eagles in the nest are very good at keeping their nest area clean. They always go towards the edge of their nest and then excrete outwards so that there's no like fecal matter within the nest. It's very like sanitary in that sense, and that is instinctual for most bird species, not just for Philippine eagles. Although Philippine eagles, when they shoot out, it's quite a lot and it's quite fast. And so one of the other reasons why it's important for the birds in general to poop out of the nest is that it doesn't build up that ammonia within the nest, or the nitrate, so that the smell is not super strong for them, and then that can cause other issues for eagles, especially in enclosed spaces or even within their nest. Yeah. So Philippine eaglets being in a nest all day, it must get boring for them sometimes. So they'll like peck and grab twigs or whatever they have around them. They're quite curious when they're young, so they'll do a lot of like head tilts and explore their like environment. Um, Other than that, they're fairly stationary. Even adults, they're fairly stationary in the trees. You can even, like, again, the one that's in the adjacent enclosure has been on that perch this entire time, hasn't moved. So in the wild, they basically fly when there is a need to. Otherwise, they would conserve their energy by just staying stationary. So parents will go out, fly, hunt for food, bring it back to the nest, or go like monitor their territory in a sense for potential threats or whatnot. But other than that, they'll stay situated in their trees and just wait it out. So again, here you can see Philippine Eagle, Agsamon preening, and preening is a very important behavior for our Philippine Eagles. It's part of their feather maintenance, keeping them clean and for their hygiene. One thing with Philippine eaglets that we can notice the difference between a juvenile Philippine eagle and an adult Philippine eagle is actually by their feathers. So Philippine eaglets, the juveniles have very pointy feather tips along their first and secondary wings and also on their tail feathers. Yeah, so that's one way to tell a juvenile apart from a adult Philippine eagle. And these feathers will molt into their adult plumage and it will become very round. They'll be rounded out. And that occurs roughly at about like 1 to 2 years of age is when they start to develop those adult feathers. But when they're still around 2 years, they still have pointy feather, the tail feathers are still pointy, but maybe around, what would you say?
Yeah, but when they get sub-adult, feathers will be changed again. So.
But at what age?
About 4 years old.
Okay, around 4 years old, would be sub-adult feathers. So and then you'll see that rounded out feather tips. Thank you everyone for watching and supporting Philippine Eagle Conservation.
Your support means a lot to us, especially for rescue, rehab, and release program.
Yes, so please check out the rest of Philippine Eagle Week activities. Check out our Philippine Eagle Foundation socials, and we hope to see you soon. Okay, happy Philippine
Happy
Eagle
Philippine Eagle
Week!
Week.